In this video, I'm going to show you some specific strategies for getting great sounding audio in your live stream. Hello, I'm Stephen Ballast. Welcome to my channel where I explore worship technology solutions. This is part 3 in a series on live streaming your worship services. I've had a lot of questions lately about how to get better sounding audio in your live stream. A lot of people will start by just taking a feed straight from their front of house mix, and then they realize it's not sounding all that great and they wonder why. There are two major differences between what your live stream mix needs and what a mix in your room needs. And if you understand those, you can make better decisions about how to improve your live streaming mix. First is when you are in the room as an audience member or in the room mixing, you have the benefit of direct sound from the stage and any sound the room creates, such as natural reflections and reverb. This has several ramifications for your streaming mix. Unless there's a mic or line picking up an instrument and feeding it to the stream, it's just not going to be heard. The solution is to mic everything. In a smaller room, things like drums might not even be mic'd and fed through the sound system. You've got to start thinking like you're making a recording in a studio where you've got to capture every sound. Another example would be your audience. If you want to hear the congregation singing and responding, which you do to give a better sense of the experience in the room, you need to mic them. Shotgun mics work best for micing the audience, and I have some links to suggestions down in the description of this video. But if you want to make a difference in your live stream audio today, anything, even an SM58, will be better than nothing. My rule of thumb is, if it's on stage, mic it, even if you're not using it in your house mix. Your stream also doesn't have the benefit, good or bad, of the space that you're in and the natural reverb that it creates. Without adding reverb, it's going to sound sterile and direct. Any reverb is better than nothing, but you'll find that the reverb settings you're using in the room as an effect probably aren't the right settings for your stream. Which brings me to my next point, and that is isolation. By this I actually mean two things. First is isolate the person doing the stream mix from the room. If you're in the room, you're getting all the benefits that the room provides, so you aren't hearing what's lacking in the mix, and you're not going to be able to make the right decisions in your mix because you don't have the right information. A lot of people start mixing their stream on headphones, and if you do, be sure and use a good pair of isolation headphones. But that shouldn't be your end goal for a solution to mixing your stream. When you use headphones in the room, no matter how good they are at isolation, there's still going to be a certain amount of bass and other sounds that bleed in and will influence your mix decisions. Plan to get the person doing your live stream mix isolated from your room in their own space where all they hear is what they are mixing. The second thing I'm referring to when I say isolation is isolate your streaming channels from your front of house channels. You need unique control over the EQ, compression, and aux sends for effects. Using an aux output on your front of house board at least gives you isolation of level or volume control, but it's not going to give you unique EQ and full control over the channel. When you adjust the channel EQ on your front of house board, to some degree you are compensating for the frequency response of your speakers, or how those speakers interact with your room, as well as doing things like notching out frequencies to improve your gain before feedback, all of which aren't necessarily what's needed for your stream. So having separate EQ control over your streaming channels is really important for a great sounding stream. I always like to tell people to create a roadmap for your live streaming plan, and this should include splitting your channels and getting your live stream mix operator in an isolated space. Let me give you an example roadmap of some steps you can take to accomplish this if you're just starting out. Step 1, start with an aux feed from your front of house board mixed through headphones. Step 2, mix that same aux feed from a remote location through an app with studio monitors. Step 3, if your front of house board has the capability, duplicate all your channels, half dedicated to front of house and half dedicated to your stream, and output your stream through a bus. Again, still mixing in a remote location through an app on studio monitors. Step 4, have a second mixer dedicated to your stream mix with all your channels split from front of house through a DANTE network. Depending on your board and how many channels you use, you may not be able to do step 3, but for us here it actually held us over until we were able to upgrade our front of house mixer. We mixed that way for about 2 years. The point is, come up with a plan and assess where you're at. Maybe there's something you can do this week to make your stream mix sound better, like adding a room mic or fully micing your drums. The nice thing about a church environment is that it's an iterative thing. You're going to do a service this Sunday and then again next Sunday. So use that. Each week, evaluate your mix, use virtual sound check to make it better, And then next week do the same. Keep making incremental improvements. And then when it's budget time, think about what's the next step you want to take on your roadmap to improve your streaming audio. The second major difference between mixing in your room and mixing for your live stream is that your sound system produces a very wide volume range. You may run at 60 dB when someone is speaking and up to 100 dB for music, and your sound system and ears will cope with that just fine. But it doesn't translate to laptop speakers, a TV, or whatever device people are watching your stream on. No one is listening to your stream on laptop speakers at 100 dB. So when they listen to your music at a reasonable level for their device, your speaking portion will be too low. What we need to do is scrunch that range down into something that is more manageable. And to do that, we'll use some studio techniques. We want to keep things at a more consistent level and remove any unexpected peaks. What I like to do, especially on vocal mics, is use several stages of compression. Most compressors, if you hit them hard using a lot of compression, you're going to start to hear it in a not so nice way. But if you use a couple stages of compression, each taking a few dB off, it's going to sound a lot more natural. The way I accomplish this is to run a compressor on each channel at say 3:1 ratio, and the threshold set to take a few dB off. Then I run all my vocals to a bus where I have a compressor that is at 3:1, taking a few more dB off. So what all this does is give me very consistent levels on all my channels, and the operator is making mix adjustments on the buses as the music ebbs and flows. This setup makes it really easy for volunteers to start mixing as well. Once you have your music mix at a consistent level, it's time to try and match that with your speaking mics. This will depend on how you're running your channels to your stream mix and how isolated you have them from your house, but most mixers will have some sort of trim control that will let you raise the gain or volume of your channel without affecting what's happening on your house mixer. Use your master meter to verify that you're getting the same volume out, and really just do some listening comparisons on a few devices. This is a good use of your virtual sound check to check your streaming levels. So now let's listen to some examples of how this all works together for a better sounding mix on your stream. I'm running a 128 channel split from my front of house through DANTE into a DAW where we do our streaming mix. This DM2000 is just acting as a control surface so we can mix with physical faders, but the DAW is actually acting as the mixer. It's a great economical way to create an isolated mix for your stream, and you can also use Waves plugins live on your streaming channels. First, we'll start with the mix very dry and plain, very direct sounding. No effects inserted, no reverb, and no room mics. It sounds pretty sterile and plain.
Mine was the sin that drove the bitter nails and hung him on that judgment tree.
Now let's add in our compressors to get our volume under control.
And hung him on that judgment tree.
I'll add in some reverb, and finally, let's bring in the crowd mics.
And I will glory in my Redeemer, who carries me on eagle's wings. He crowns my life with loving kindness. His triumph song I'll ever sing. And I will glory in my Redeemer, who waits for me
So there you can tell, using these strategies, it went from something that wasn't very inspiring to something that has more energy and life to it. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you like videos like this, be sure and subscribe to my channel. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Until next time, thanks.